as we further deliberate on President Tinubu's cabinet reshuffle. Austin Aigbe, Regional Advocacy Lead and ECOWAS Liaison Officer of the West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network, WADEMOS, is actually with us right now. Good morning, Mr. Aigbe, and thank you for joining us this morning on the morning show.
Well, Austin, well, good morning.
Thank you very much. I was already enjoying your analysis.
Well, okay. Well, let me just summarize what I was saying. It's good you listened to me. I thought we were expecting the government to serve us coffee, but we can't smell the coffee. They've served us Bonvita, in my view, even if I had made some exceptions. But what do you think? Is this coffee or Bonvita they have served us? Is it far-reaching enough? Is it significant enough? Do you expect more? Even if, always remember, as I said, it's the president's prerogative to choose his own team. So there's a limit to what we can say. We can't dictate to the president in terms of how he chooses his team.
Thank you, Dr. Abati, and good morning, everyone. Just to put on record that it depends on which side of the divide you stand. For a lot of folks, they'll tell you they don't like coffee. They'll prefer chocolate or something above it. While others like you and I, you probably will like coffee because of the smell and, of course, what it does after. Sincerely, I was expecting more. And I thought that after the 1 year review, because, you know, at the beginning of this administration, the president was so conscious about delivery, and he went ahead to institute some kind of department or unit, whatever it may be, to do some form of M&E of ministerial, of the ministers and their work being done. And the whole essence of M&E, monitoring and evaluation, is to check on the basis upon which these ministers were appointed, vis-a-vis the promise, the focus of the administration. And we know that the focus of this administration today is renewed hope. So you are supposed to look at each of the ministries vis-a-vis the pointer at which they've renewed the hope of citizens. And for me, I was expecting to see a revigoration of the renewed hope agenda in a way that whoever is remaining actually is working towards a renewed hope. Otherwise, there will be no basis to remain. You know, on this channel, on your show, we've interrogated the ministers who were performing at some point, where there were data of those who were on this side and those on this side. So we will expect that data inform this choice. But however, like you said, it's a president prerogative, because at the end of the day, the buck stops at the table. The non-performance of the ministers eventually stops at the table. Whether you also like it or not, is important to state that is a very tense political atmosphere. Politics has gone into this appointment. Politics has gone into those who, even though you know they are not performing, but because they've got godfathers and godmothers, they probably may not be touched. So it's weird. I expected more, sincerely.
All right. When you say you expected more, I'd like you to break that down. How do you mean? What would you have wanted to see in terms of expectations? A number of people have said some people ought to have gone, or been discharged. Let me use the word that has been used technically, discharged. Were there some people you expected to see discharged, and then some ministries that were collapsed into one or even done away with completely, like the Sports Ministry and the Ministry of Delta, the Niger Delta Affairs? What do you make of those things, those developments?
So it's good when you interrogate a system. We have to look at where the pitfalls are. Currently in this country, we know at least 3 major areas are in deficit. Number one is the economy is in deficit. I don't know. We are not going to wait for 15 years to come out from this debacle. I mean, we're not going to wait for 15 years. But we need to see signs of improvement ahead of 15 years. There's nothing wrong with free economy. There's nothing wrong with liberalized economy. There's nothing wrong when people argue that government does not have business in business, whereas we copy models that we cannot fulfill. When we say we follow capitalism, which is, of course, entrenched in most developed, in most countries. We've had recently a conversation in class where we're talking about whether capitalism was going to die soon. And I mean, it was a uniformity that capitalism is going nowhere. I mean, the Karl Marx philosophy will remain, but it may only change in a way. For those who run capitalism, you see them running some level of welfareism. You see, for instance, in the U.S., which is highly capitalized, there is what they call the social welfare system. I mean, whether I like it or not, the social security systems are used to upgrade, improve for some form of equity to bring the poor apart, not necessarily to the rich, but in a way they're able to survive in the economy. So the economy is in a huge financial, not financial, in a huge, almost, I don't want to use the word mess, but that's where we are currently. And of course, if you look at, we continue to fight security. Security is an arm that we need to focus on. What is happening? Why are we not seeing more of the FDI, as we want to see, foreign direct investment? People are looking at countries and looking at the risk of investing in countries. And one of those risks, of course, is from the economy. Another is also from the security of the country. When you cannot freely move and you know that you have to spend more money to protect yourself while investing in a country, so why do I need to go to that country? And of course, importantly too, I'm not looking at, even though I will tie up CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, with this devaluation that is ongoing, with the floating of the dollar, and of course all that happened in that trajectory. And a fourth, maybe a third, because I just added CBN to the economy. Of course, all of these are economic anyway, but importantly, is the petroleum sector, the oil sector of this country, whether you call it the upstream or the downstream sector. What has happened? Why are we not getting the desired benefit of being a Nigerian? I'm not, you know, when you hear of Westlife, I don't know if the president truly said it from his mouth, but I read it from its aid, that you rather than pay for rather than buy fuel for 1,000, buy CNG for 200 naira. And I continue to ask, you say we are in a capitalist system, which is okay. I have no problem with capitalism. However, where are the kits, the CNG kits? Am I going to buy that for my vehicle? That to install that kit is almost ₦1 million. Do you want the poor who are worst hit by this 1,000 naira plus fuel to now go and invest almost ₦1 million to get the kits? So that is why you saw what happened in Edo. Apparently, people are now running to the fake CNG in an attempt to buy CNG for 200 naira. What measure do we need to put in place? I think as part of initiative of government to ensure that a free economy that we all envisage, I mean, government don't need to invest in everything, but government need to invest in certain utilities that matter for the greater good of the people. What am I saying? As part of initiative, you will expect that the petroleum sector would have invested hugely in those kits, the CNG kits. Either you give them freely or you give them over time for repayment or something. In any case, I think it should be on the basis of repayment and or on the basis of grant to Nigerians. There is nothing wrong if the government used the subsidy. At some point they said there was no subsidy. We later knew there was subsidy. So the subsidy that is being removed can be used to invest in those CNG, bring them in en masse. We know the number of cars that are in this country. We can't.
Mr. Aigbe, I mean, very well said, but quickly some things. There's a 10 billion loan for people to be able to get CNG, and also there's been some cylinders being, given in grants to people, but definitely it's not enough. The other question I'd like to ask you is about this Ministry of Niger Delta that has been scrapped. Aigbe Clark has written as regards it, and there have been some agitations, because it's a special ministry. This idea of lumping everything under Ministry of Regional Development, that was not supposed to be the initial idea of the Ministry of Niger Delta. The Ministry of Niger Delta and Niger Delta Development Commission was because of the importance of Niger Delta, which is the cash cow of this country. That's that region it comes from. I mean, what's your take on this? Because people from that region have started to kick as regards, that swap now.
Well, I will speak as a Niger Deltan, a privilege from that region. But if you check what has happened, it's by way of cutting costs, even though we know that the government is not cutting costs. At some point in the history of this administration or beyond, you are going to have Ministry of Northeast. You are going to have Ministry of Southwest. You are going to have Ministry of... So at the end of the day, putting them in one place may lead to some form of efficiency. In any case, let me also put to record, the Ministry of Niger Delta, I mean, with all due respect, will I say, has lost the focus, because the NDDC is the commission that is saddled with the responsibility to effect the things you are talking about, not necessarily the ministry. So when you have a regional, I mean, I like what has happened, personally, because what has happened is to give direction. Ministries are supposed to be political head. Ministers are political head. You look at the budget of the Niger Delta Commission, look at the budget of the Southeast Development Commission, look at the budget of the Northeast Development Commission, and so pretend in a way of delivery, rather than a minister who is performing almost the same role as the Niger Delta Commission. If you check, the ministers consistently over time had been seen almost doing the same job that was given or that is assigned or budgeted for the NDDC. And I think having that decentralization in a way that is fragmented, I hope we bring about efficiency and optimal delivery so that we don't end up creating new ministries in the future.
Well, what many Nigerians are saying is that, okay, they had hoped that more ministers will be displaced. Do you also share that personal view? It's just personal view, individual views. It's not that it's going to make any difference, But do you also share that view?
I share the view of Mr. President when he said that the ministers who are not performing will go. And that view is consistent with my feeling, consistent with my thought, because the president said it. And I align with his view that I think that based on critical review, the ministries I just talked about a few minutes ago, economy, petroleum sector, security, have no business now unless they show proof that what the 15 years we want to wait for, according to the World Bank, will be reduced by doing other effects by way of introduction. I mean, permit me. I was trying to correct me just now about the grant for CNG and all that. The question is, when it is in limited quantity, limited supplies, the risk of going for the fake is higher. When in Abuja, if you go in Abuja right now, if you go on Airport Road heading towards the airport, you're going to see just one gas station, CNG gas station, where you have long vehicles, lorries, parked for more than a week to fuel those vehicles. I mean, those long trucks. And the question is, how many CNG gas stations exist in Abuja? Because I don't use CNG gas, I may not know, but I know just one. As long as the airport road is from the city center up to the airport, it is just one.
Okay, Austin, what is your point? Who are those other ministers you would have loved to see out of the cabinet? It's a direct question.
Direct question. Minister of Economy, whether it's blue or, blue economy, whatever his name is, Minister of Petroleum.
You want the president to sack himself? For me, the president is the Minister of Petroleum. You want the president to sack himself when he's the appointer? But
we know the Minister of State for Petroleum is actually the one sitting. We know when I say Minister for Petroleum, I like the point you brought in. It means that the president needs to interrogate his position as Minister of Petroleum. But however, it is consistent with what Buhari had done over time, but by appointing a Minister of State for Petroleum. We know technically that the petroleum sector is not doing well. Right. And we need to revamp it. If the president needs to appoint a substantive minister who will run the affairs of that ministry in a way that delivers public goods to the greatest number of people, I think that would be a good one for him. The president cannot be minister. He's the minister of all. He can't now sit as minister again. The president is a minister of women affairs. He's a minister of economy. He's a minister of everything. He cannot again sit himself as minister of petroleum. No, not at all.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your insights this morning. I'm sure the conversation will definitely still be ongoing as it's news that's trending at the moment, but we thank you for your time with us, Mr. Aigbe.